call to order the public hearing for June 10th. Mary, can you do roll call, please?
Keith Gidry.
Here.
Roland Curall. Here. Mitch Dowd.
Here.
Brett DeRoche. Scott Terrio. Brian Martz.
Here.
McNeely Ron.
Here.
Monty Vegas. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Okay, gentlemen, this is to the public hearing to consider the 2024 revised budget. Do we have any questions from the public or from any of our commissioners?
Public once, public twice.
Questions? Okay, I need a motion that we accept it. Motion by Mitch, second by Mac. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, I need a
Adjourn.
motion that we adjourn the public hearing. Moved by Brian, second by Mac. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. All right, let's call the meeting to order for Monday, January 10th. Please rise for the pledge. Would you lead us, Brian?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mayor, we need to do a roll call for the meeting.
Keith Gidry.
Here.
Roland Curall.
Here.
Mitch Dowd.
Here.
Brett DeRoche. Scott Terrio. Brian Martz.
Here.
McNeely Ron.
Here.
Monty Vegas. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, you've been presented the minutes of the regular meeting from May 13th. I have a motion to accept. Moved by Brian, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, the adoption of the amended 24 budget, we have to
Yes, we
accept
have to
that.
adopt it now.
Okay. All right, moved by Mac, second by Mitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, on the President's report, with great sadness that I have to report the passing of our longtime Commissioner, Mr. Ronald, Vice President. We all send our condolences to his family. Mr. Ronald was a great asset to this community in whole. So please keep them in your prayers. Let's see, that's really all I have. The executive committee report. Monty's not here, so we didn't meet.
Yeah,
On the
the
28th.
20th.
Okay, you had that one, yeah.
Yep. 28.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't get to it.
It's in there.
I didn't. Huh?
Oh, I thought you had.
No. In there? No, about that. Up the-
One more. One more right after that.
Come on, man.
What you got? You still this?
Mary, you have it?
I have a copy.
That's the old, yeah. Old Monty. Okay.
That's the first page.
Okay, the executive committee met and discussed the potential budget amendment for some equipment purchases. And I think the equipment committee has to meet on that, or did they meet on that? We still have to.
We can discuss it later in the regular agenda.
Okay. Section D, salt bar material. Nick informed the committee that recent negotiations for bar material from the L.A. Breton Company had been extremely positive, and the Levee District Legal Counsel was working on a draft of the agreement for the use of the material to be considered at the upcoming board meeting. So do we have to prove anything on here? No? Additional pump repairs, our field superintendent, Drake Bowdoin, explained repairs in the amount of $49,950 that were required to the gearhead at pump station number 6. Mr. Matern informed the committee that because of the repairs fell within his spending authority and the need was an emergency, approved the work and would inform the board of the repairs at the upcoming regular meeting. Okay, a drive initiative call. Mr. Matern informed the committee that the Association of Levee Boards for Louisiana recently participated in a conference call with representatives from the Governor Landry's administration regarding the Governor's Drive initiative, looking at benefits and problems that could stem from potential consolidation of state boards and commissions. It was requested that each levee district provide a synopsis of the history, operations, funding, and current challenges for consideration. Mr. Matern commented that he was working on a document and planned to submit it the following day. Next part were the lobbying services. The committee discussed the potential for hiring a lobbyist to advocate for funding and legislation to benefit the levee district in Baton Rouge. Mr. Matern committed to obtaining a proposal by upcoming board meeting for consideration. And that concludes the executive committee meeting. So do we have to approve this? Any questions on the executive committee? Okay. Moving on, audience comments. People from Ducks Unlimited.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Graham. I'm a regional biologist with Ducks Unlimited based out of Lafayette, Louisiana. I've been with the organization for about 4 years now, doing coastal restoration work.
Amanda Wazan, the Coastal Restoration Coordinator for DU. I work in Homa, kind of managing the partnership we have with ConocoPhillips.
So we've got a short presentation. We just want to give everyone a rundown of some of our more recent and ongoing projects that are in the parish and around the levee district's infrastructure. Is this?
Yeah, that'll control.
Okay. So here's an overview of some of the projects that we'll go over, just a couple. Starting with our Highway 1 Marsh Terracing and Living Shoreline project. This is in an area just outside of the levee that you can see south of Golden Meadow. On that aerial imagery on the left, back in 1963, we can all see that it was mostly solid emergent marsh, but as you can tell and know throughout the years from storms and subsidence and saltwater intrusion, that area has degraded and is now currently mostly open water. And so DU identified this area, has good water depths for terracing, and it's moderately protected by the only remaining marsh. So this project would construct about 88,000 linear feet of earthen terraces, as well as have 10,000 linear feet of living shoreline product. That product is called Cajun Coral. You might have seen it used around the state. It's developed and produced by Natrix out of North Carolina, and they're now producing it here in Amelia, Louisiana. We actually signed the purchase order this week to start the production of those modules. It'll be about 3,333 modules that'll be placed along the shorelines of some of the most outer terraces that are most exposed to wave erosion. So this project is going to be on property owned by Apache Minerals and ConocoPhillips. It'll benefit about 1,000 acres when it's completed at a cost of $6.3 million. The main funding source of this project is through the National Fish and Wildlife Federation's National Coastal Resilience Fund that we received last year. We also have partners through ConocoPhillips, Apache Louisiana Minerals, Lafourche Parish Government, as well as the South Lafourche Levee District for supporting our permit needs and helping us through that process. And letters of support for those grant proposals. So here's just some photos that you can see DU staff standing in front of the living shoreline product that's called Cajun Coral. That's at the Amelia production facility. Right now, those particular modules are actually going to be deployed at Port Fourchon that Amanda will talk about later. And then that bottom photo on the right is inside their production facility where the modules are actually 3D printed using cement. Here's some drone video that I took earlier this year of the project site. Right now, it's mostly open water. You can see the old Highway 1 there on the left. The new Highway 1 that is currently under construction will be there on the right. It'll pass through part of the project, and hopefully those terraces will provide an extra line of defense to the highway, both the old and new highway, as well as the levee. So I'll let that run a little bit, or not. So as that video pans, you can see just how expansive that open water is right now. It used to be emergent marsh. So when we build these terraces, they can break up that wave fetch, reducing shoreline erosion, enhancing water quality, allowing sediments to drop out, and for submerged aquatic vegetation to establish. That's really beneficial for fish and wildlife, as well as protecting the existing surrounding marsh and infrastructure.
This is immediately south of the Levee, Ontario lock.
It might pan that far where you can see that. We've used terraces in Louisiana since 1993. When they're constructed in the proper environment with the right soil conditions, they can persist on the landscape for over 30 years. So there you can see Golden Meadow in the background, as well as the lock system there. So that was just a 360 video showing the project site. Here's some of our permit drawings of how we plan to do the project. You can see Highway 1 coming down through the middle of the project. That'll be under construction or in the project site pretty soon. We do plan to mobilize from a private dock on Apache property. This is just showing the geotechnical boring locations that we will start this month. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bores that we're going to take just to make sure that our geotech is all in order. Here's the terrace cross sections showing the dimensions of those. And then this cross section showing the living shoreline product that will be placed on the edge of some of those outer terraces to help protect them from wave erosion. And I'll turn it over to Amanda.
All right, I'll be talking about a few more projects in construction or funding that's pending in the lower Lafourche area. The first one is the Golden Meadow Marsh Creation Phase 2. So this in our conversations with the parish and Nick with the Levee District, this area has been highlighted as a huge priority. As in most cases, this area was historically healthy marsh, and it's degraded into open water. And it hugs, as you'll see in a couple of slides, it really is going to work synergistically with some of our projects that have been already constructed over the years. So the funding for this, we submitted it to 2 places recently, the NOAA Transformational Habitat Program, as well as the NIFWIF National Coastal Resilience Fund Program. We do not anticipate getting the NOAA funding, but through NIFWIF, we're invited to submit a full proposal in July. So we are hopeful that that proposal will go through. It's around just over $10 million project, 339 acres of marsh creation, and 810 linear feet of living shoreline, and we're going to use the Cajun coral that Scott talked about earlier. The borrow source will be in Catfish Lake, as you can see, and this project is actually fully permitted. We did some work a few years ago. That permit is still existing, so we're hoping that we get this funding in time to use that existing permit that we have. The project partners for this, if we get the funding, it'll be through NIFWIF, DU, ConocoPhillips, Lafourche Parish Government, and if we get the funding, in our conversations with Nick, South Lafourche Levee District is interested in being a financial partner as well.
This is something that's already come to the board that y'all pledged up to $500,000 of matching funds. So.
And I just want to say, in terms of like these grant programs, the one-offs, having that match is like very beneficial and makes this very competitive. So we are thankful that y'all agree to do that. And I think I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. Whoop. I did. Y'all gonna, thank you, Nick. So we have, since around 2010, there's been kind of like continual progress on projects on this side of the levee. In total, 160 acres of marsh creation and over 66,000 linear feet of terraces have already been constructed. That's the areas in red. So as you can see in the black hatched area, which is the proposed project, it would really kind of fit like a puzzle piece and provide that protection to that corner of the levee, which is pretty much open water. So I do have a video for you guys. As you'll see, it'll show the CAP project constructed in 2010, and the open water area, this is pretty much all of the project site, which would be fully marsh after constructed. So that's the CAP project you probably recognize up against the levee. So it'll pretty much just hug that existing project. So that's all for the Golden Meadow. Jumping on over to the Barataria side, DU, in partnership with ConocoPhillips, has since 2012 has been constructing terraces south of the Bayou Lourdes Ridge. The white polygons are constructed. The blue polygon is the Bayou Lourdes Phase 5 project. We're hoping we'll be able to start construction this fall. And then the red polygon north is the North Bayou Lourdes Ridge Terracing Project. We actually did receive funding through the CPRA Parish Matching Program in partnership with Lafourche Parish Government. And I'll talk in depth a little bit about that in a second, but I just wanted to show y'all some pictures of the existing terracing project. I couldn't find a good one of Phase 2, so you get 1, 3, and 4. But as you can see, these projects really do provide a lot of benefit and protection to that ridge. You know, when a storm comes through, there's not much protecting in, so that ridge is really a solid line of defense. So we think that these terraces are really breaking up that wave action, and that's why we've kind of continued to build on it over the years. So Bayou Lourdes Phase 5, this is the one that we're hoping to start construction in the fall. This was funded through NAWCA, which is the North American Wetlands Conservation Act. It's about 45,000 linear feet of terraces. Overall, it'll be 850 acres of brackish marsh that is enhanced, and then we'll plant the terraces after. It's just over a $2 million project, and ConocoPhillips and Lafourche Parish Government are financial partners in addition to the NAWCA funding. So this is just kind of like the overall terrace layout, and you can kind of see on the satellite imagery, Bayou Lourdes Phase 5 is just to the west. And this is just your typical cross-section. It'll be about 2.5 feet elevation once constructed. And then this is the North Bayou Lourdes Ridge Terraces. This was recently funded through CPRA Parish Matching. Lafourche Parish Government was the applicant, but we assisted, and we've kind of been doing some site assessment work in the area with the landowner. It's a private landowner. So we received notification that CPRA was going to fund $1.35 million, and that is in addition to Lafourche Parish putting up $500,000, so it'll be 1.85 total, and that'll get us about 36,000 linear feet of terraces, which will enhance 200 acres. And then this is our plan. Right below it is that Bayou Lourdes Phase 5, so our plan is to do these projects all at once. The next project is one y'all might be familiar with. The construction is currently ongoing. It's the Port Fouchon Terracing and Living Shoreline. So this was awarded through the NIFWF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, National Coastal Resilience Fund. This is about 80,000 linear feet of earthen terraces. And then we're going to be actually planting this with both smooth cordgrass and black mangroves. We've never used black mangroves before, so it's kind of something new, but because of how far south this is, we think it'll be a good fit. We're going to do just over 4,000 linear feet of living shoreline, which is using that Cajun coral. And so total, about 1,250 acres of salt marsh will be enhanced. Right now, the project cost is $4.7 million. So construction status, y'all might see the excavator on the side of the road. We bid it out in August 2023, and it was for an original just over 47,000 linear feet. So we issued the notice to proceed and began construction in November 2023. In March 2024, we had some additional partners come to the table and some additional funding. We did over-permit this, so we had a lot more permitted than was funded. And so when that happened, we issued a change order for an additional about 32,000 linear feet of terraces. And so the pictures you see on the bottom right is south of LA Highway 1, and then the two on the left are the northern fields. So we are, like I said, we are going to be using that Cajun coral product. We are doing it on the areas that are circled in red, and those are really just to provide protection to those outer terraces from any kind of, give it a little bit of protection against erosion, and then have the oyster habitat that comes along with that. So I have a couple videos. This is the northern field, so it's between the elevated Highway 1 and the old LA Highway 1, and as you can see, we used the grid pattern for it. This northern field, to this date, it's almost done with construction. That might be it. Okay, and then this is the southern field, so we kind of mimicked those historic beach ridges, so that's why they're in that more linear pattern, but this kind of shows the excavator out there working.
I'll add in that the video you see right now are the terraces just being based in. So they do a couple lifts. They'll do one base in, let it settle, do another layer, let it settle. So they do two or three basins, and once that's settled, then they'll come back and shape it. So that video is just showing the basin.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So the other ones I just listed, but we have so many partners on this, I wanted to make a pretty slide. So, I mean, it really just started off with that NIFWIF grant. It was a DU, ConocoPhillips, Port Fourchon, Wisner, and Lafourche Parish Government. And then, as you can see, partners kind of came to the table, and I really just think this is a huge priority area. So we've been thankful that we've been able to grow the project. And because of that, we're already planning a phase 2. So we have permitted over 135,000 linear feet of additional terraces in those green polygons to the right. We submitted it to NAWCA in February 2024, and we actually got notification on Friday that it was funded. So that'll be 32,000 additional linear feet of terraces that we know we have money for. And then we are also submitting it in July to the NIFWIF NCRF for 76,000 linear feet. So we think that'll take care of everything that we permitted. That funding should take care of it if we get it. So we are hopeful for that as well. And you can kind of see the white, so the white polygon, or the white layout on the right compared to where the green proposed phase 2 is. The last project I'll talk about is not a construction project. It's a planning E&D project. We received funding through the NIFWIF NCRF program. It's really a planning grant, and we received that at the October 2023, and it's for 3 different project types. So in the red polygon would be potential terracing, yellow polygon, ridge or marsh creation, and then blue, which is living shoreline. And so at the end of the day, what we hope to get is a 30% design and permit drawings for those 3 types of projects. And this one is going to involve some community engagement. We've already started some site assessment of those projects, but we're going to be looking at a big area and then narrowing it down. And that one was $800,000, and ConocoPhillips and Lafourche Parish Government were match partners on this one. So that's all we got. If y'all have any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've noticed the work being done between Fourchon and Grand Isle on that south side. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Last this weekend.
Thanks.
Any
Yeah.
contact from LNG Global Venture, who's building the compressor station? The living shoreline will basically provide additional protection and storm surge attenuation for their facility.
Okay, well, I might have to tell our business development people to reach out to them, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that they have, if they're a big player in that area. But, yeah. Good deal. Well, thank y'all.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, general manager report, man.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. First is the, let's see. There we go. First is the general agricultural letter agreement for the Cloverleaf discharge pipes. I've been working with General Agricultural Services and Little Lake Land Company on a letter agreement to allow us to cover their discharge pipes of the pump station on section E North. The board previously approved language and execution of the agreement. We received the signed letter on June 6th, so I've signed and returned that agreement to them that day. And then New Gem Construction, excuse me, will begin covering those pipes using a small amount of the material that's been stockpiled along E North from construction site specialties. As mentioned in the executive committee report, working on an agreement with the Allen LeBreton Company for material for section D North. So that was after terminating our previous contract to lift the ramp on section D North that crosses the road on the loop facility. We needed to identify where we could obtain additional material to complete that ramp lift. So we've been working with the landowners to identify where the material should come from and the language of an agreement that they would agree to. They've finally agreed to quantities of material to be taken from their triangular borrow pit that we've previously used near the project site, as well as an additional site where we can get material near Breton Canal, close to pump station number 6. I've also requested that they allow us to use about 800 cubic yards of material to add additional cover to our discharge pipes at pump station number 6. So we're waiting to see if they're going to be agreeable to that on paper. So our board attorney had drafted an agreement that's currently being reviewed by the Allen LeBreton Company attorney, and that'll be brought to you guys in the future once we hear back from them. And once that's signed and executed, we can move forward with completing the D North ramp project, as GIS will mention later, I'm sure. Pump repair update. First, pump number 1 at pump station number 2, Bola Marine in New Orleans is currently completing repairs on that pump. It looks like before the end of July, we should have it back installed and operational. And then another issue, one of our employees noticed an issue with the Philadelphia gearhead on pump 5 at pump station number 6, as was mentioned in the executive committee report. So that was brought to Bolin for assessment. An issue was identified as a failed pinion shaft bearing, along with damage to the shaft and the housing bearing fit. Metal shavings found throughout the entire oil system, so several issues were identified. They submitted a scope and proposed costs, and as mentioned, because of the emergency need, we moved ahead and just reporting that to you guys now. Repair should be done with the gearhead back in place before August, and as we know, August 15th to about October 15th is typically our busiest and heaviest hitting time of hurricane season. So we're looking to have all this back in and operational before that heaviest period. Capital outlay update. Short, the bad news, CPRA requested $15 million for us for the Ted Gisclair lock. All of the surplus funding this year, none of it went to CPRA. All of it went to DOTD so that they could be spread throughout the entire state. So CPRA didn't get any surplus funding this year. They did identify some additional potential surplus funding later in the session, which CPRA was hoping to get about 50 million of the 80 million they found, and we were going to get maybe 5 or 10 million of the 15 million we had requested. None of that happened. So it's going to delay us a little bit in getting the Ted Gisclair lock into construction. The parish is still working on hazard mitigation grant program funding for that. So as soon as that money becomes available, it'll put us a little closer. And at that time, we can talk to CPRA about the potential of moving around some funds that they may have available and see what our options are there. The good news though, although our $400,000 that we requested initially through capital outlay to install digital gauges at all of our pump stations and our 2 gates, it didn't originally make it into the capital outlay bill, but Representative Ogeron was here today. It did fight to get it put in the First Amendment, so that was successful. It entered in as priority 5 funding, so not necessarily real money this year or necessarily guaranteed for the following year. And as we've had, I think over $10 million in priority 5 funding for several years now. But I did speak with the former Senator Norby Chabert about the issue, and he's started to push. He had pushed kind of behind the scenes on a few things, and he got that 400,000 moved in HB2, the capital outlay bill. He got the amendment redone to put it in the Louisiana Transportation Infrastructure Fund. So it looks like we'll be getting that money this year. So as soon as that money is actually available, I'll bring that to you guys to approve advertising for bids for that project. Which that whole situation kind of leads into what was discussed at the executive committee this past month, looking into the potential services of a lobbyist in the state level. Obviously, we do have access to the Morganza Action Coalition's lobbyist on the federal level, and he's been invaluable so far in helping with the Water Resource Development Act language that I'll report on in just a minute. But as requested by the committee, I reached out to Clater and Chabert for a quote and the scope of work for lobbying services on the state level to help us maximize our chances of getting state funding in the future. And I think the speed that they were able to maneuver that $400,000 for us kind of shows what they're capable of, and what they're able to accomplish in addition to what we do here locally, especially since they're in the Capitol and around legislators and in state offices on a daily basis, where we can't be. So Clater Chabert submitted a proposal that's in your packets for a fee of $3,000 a month for a year at a time. I did reach out to the Morganza Action Coalition and the Lafourche Freshwater District to get their take on, because they both employ the services of lobbyists. Morganza Action Coalition uses another lobbyist on the state level that they're paying a good bit more than this would be. And I spoke to Lafourche Freshwater District that does use Clater Chabert, and the services and the fee is comparable to what they're paying. So it seems like a fair price for the going rate of those kinds of services. So I would recommend, based on all that the board approve the contract with Clater Chabert for professional services, pending review and recommendation by legal counsel to review that contract, and to authorize me or the board president to sign and execute that agreement.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the general manager.
I'll approve.
Moved by Mac, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Money well spent.
And finally, the WRDA bill, the Water Resource Development Act, that I mentioned, that I've been working with Morganza Action Coalition's federal lobbyist on some of that language. The draft of the Senate version of the WRDA bill was circulated about 2 weeks ago. This is the bill I've been working on, again, with Congressman Garrett Graves' staff on, since he sits on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, where the WRDA bill originates on the House side. And so we've been trying to include language that reinstates us back into the Corps' rehabilitation and inspection program, ultimately opening the door for us to get local cost share credit for all the work that we've done since the $140+ million of work that we've done since Katrina that we haven't gotten credit for our federal project and our cost share. So the draft version of this bill included verbiage that gives the Secretary of the Army 1 year from the president signing the bill to submit a report to the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee and the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, comparing core guidelines for levee construction to the construction methods that we've used here locally in South Lafourche. And the report would include any deviations between their guidelines and what we've done, and an analysis of geotechnical information and other relevant data of the land that's adjacent to our levees and structures. My take is that currently the way it's worded, that report wouldn't actually do anything. It would just show the differences. So I'm working again with Garrett's staffer and Mike Henry, the lobbyist for the Morganza Action Coalition, to add back some of our original wording to give it a little more teeth and actually have us reinstated into the rehab program. So we do have a meeting scheduled on Thursday with the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee staff. So hopefully that'll give us a little more guidance on where to go from there. But if nothing else, I mean, this is kind of a big leap forward in what we've been trying to push, and just shows the success of engaging with our congressional delegates and what we could do. So, but other than that, if there's any questions, obviously I'll take those. But Mr. President, that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you for the hard work on that.
Sure.
Okay, engineering report, CPRA. Got anything to report, Daniel?
Let's see, I was going to report on CPRA snubbing of receiving no surplus funding, but once again, Nick did a good job of that.
Stealing your thunder.
Nick, took the
Very
break.
unusual, by the way, but, it's, hopefully some hard stuff needs to come, but, I was talking to Ty today, Nick, and he was discussing that priority 5, which, I don't know if that's ghost funding or what, I don't know exactly how it works, but there was quite a bit designated, this go around for priority 5, which I guess would be next fiscal year, or whenever.
Correct.
So
Like
I
a
don't know.
promise to be in the pipeline.
Yes, so I don't.
For the future.
And it, I'm sorry to be out of turn, but they can't just say, everybody wants something, or we're gonna put you all in priority 5. The priority 5 has to add up to a certain amount that is limited by the overall bonding capacity of the state of Louisiana. So it's not just, it is Santa Claus's wish list, but it's getting on the list with a budget that can actually someday come to fruition over time.
Right, and then I did ask about priorities 2, 3, and 4, which nobody can find.
No,
They don't exist.
They basically, it was places where they would send projects to die, and they're basically.
I was like, can we
Two
take
go
2,
in.
3, and 4? I mean, you don't have to all have one, but anyway, that was disappointing. The other thing I had was our agreement with Lafourche for the roads to Golden Meadow. We're doing a whole new agreement because of all the amendments that were going to have to be done. So that agreement, I mean, practically speaking, it has funding for the E-North and the D-South wall efforts that are underway. It's under final review to be signed soon by CPRA, so it shouldn't be long that agreement will be in place.
And that's really just to extend the time, correct?
Yes, but it had to be done.
Right.
I get it. But it's a whole new agreement apparently, but it's just because it was gonna be a 7 or 8 amendments. So
Right.
it's upstairs, they were like, let's just do a new agreement, so we did that. But it's almost ready, so that's it.
Any questions for Daniel? Thank you, Daniel. Okay, moving on, anybody from the Corps here? Anybody from the Corps? Joe, you joined the Corps?
No, absolutely not.
Ciola and Associates, come on, Joe. Come on down.
Sense the common sense in the, not for them.
Okay, Joe PCO with PCO and Associates on the La Rose Lock project. So our plans and specs are complete. All our permitting is complete, so we're assisting Nick, and right now we're going to work on satisfying HMGP's requirements and any more engineering requirements they may have. On section E North Levee, we have construction site specialties on site. They're moving material at a slow rate, working in the pits. They're continuing to work, weather permitting, slow and steady. There's no pay application this month for this project. Maintenance of the north sector gates at Lee Ontario Locks. Sea Level is the contractor. This project's complete. Everything's back in place. We're just still in the lien period waiting to give them their final payment. On section A East, our project plans and specifications are complete. We've submitted them to CPRA for approval. They asked for more geotechnical engineering work, which Eustis Engineering has completed all the field work. I spoke to them last week, and they're doing analysis on the different sections, and they should have something. He was hoping to have something by the end of last week. I haven't received something, so I expect any day now we'll have results on their testing. And then we'll compare that to how we designed the project and go forward from there. Replacement of discharge pipe at pump station 8. This is also sea level. This project is also complete. And we're in a lean period on that project. On the north, repairs to the north gate structure due to the vessel damage. So we put projects out to bids. We accepted bids on June the 6th, last week. And we received 4 bids. TLP Construction Company LLC was the low bidder in the amount of $115,000 even. It's much less than we budgeted, but from everything that we researched, they're a competent contractor, so we recommend you award the contract to them.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to award the contract to TLP. Need a motion, please? Mitch, moved by Mitch, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
And on our repairs to pump number 1 at pump station number 2, Bowling Marine's been working. As Nick said, they fabricated the shafts already. They've also turned the inside of the impeller housing. They're getting ready to start fitting the impeller into that housing. They have some of the bearings already rebuilt and different components in various stages of construction. They expect to be complete late July, early August. Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Any questions?
That's it. Any questions for Joe?
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, thanks.
That's a good, no money.
Is that a lead in? Is that a lead in to Neil? Okay, GIS engineering, John Plazo.
John Plaisance with GIS Engineering. I hate to set up the guy that behind me as well, but we won't be spending any money either today. The A's Bayou Lafourche Water Retention Project. We are complete with the plans and specs. We're doing a final review to make sure, but we are still getting servitudes on that. All the permits are in order, and Ray and Ryan Collins are working on the servitudes of that project. D North Ramp Project, as Nick mentioned, we are getting ready to move forward a little bit more on that. We've got a contractor, Outer Limit, getting ready to excavate some material out of the triangular pit to be ready to use on that project, but also we've got that other pit on the north of this project, close to the Breton Canal, that most of the material will actually come from. That's a little bit drier, but the material on the triangular pit will be able to use for future uses. The reconnection of Breton Canal to Bayou Lafourche, the weir, we are got a contract for that, finishing, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that construction contract. So we're hoping to be able to do a pre-construction conference in the next week or so and get construction kicked off on that one.
Who's the contract?
Garden Environments. You might know them better as Wolf Construction.
Wolf?
And the D South Flood Wall at the Crawfish Farms, Phase 3. We have gotten some comments back from both CPRA and Nick. We're addressing them. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll be ready to move forward on that project as well. So hopefully at next month's meeting, we'll be asking for a bid date.
Good.
No money. Sorry, Joe. Sorry
Okay,
to
any
disappoint
questions?
Joe. Sorry to disappoint y'all.
Any questions for John? Hey, John. Okay, Angelette Design. That's why he brought them back up with him.
Yeah, I got some invoices for y'all. On the C North Levee Improvements Project, that contractor is Compo and Sons. They're just about wrapped up on that. I'm raising that levy up to 13.5. We recommend approval of their invoice number 1265 in the amount of $111,970.00.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the engineer to pay Compo and Sons, $111,970. Moved by Mitch, second by Mac. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, so on the next area is Sea-South flood-side repairs. This is the zone from the Apache Farm all the way south to Basin. There are several projects that the Levee District has Compo and Sons working on in that area. So I'll go through each one of them separate. There's 3 separate pay requests that he has for 3 different things going on right now. In general, he's working on rebuilding the flood-side berm of the levee, but he's also working on hauling some materials in the area behind the shooting range, both some daytime activities when he can, as well as some nighttime activities when the shooting range is not in operation. So his first invoice, number 1263, is in the amount of $15,835, and this is for work being done behind the shooting range in the daytime.
Okay, we have to do them separately?
Yes, sir.
All right. You heard recommendation engineer to pay Compo and Sons, invoice 1263, the amount of $15,835. Moved by Mr. Rowland, second by Brian, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, second invoice on this is number 1264, in the amount of $139,857.50. This is the majority of the work he's been doing so far behind the shooting range. It's been at night, the work he's been doing. So most of the work he's been doing is at night, which is why it's such a big difference from the daytime amount. But we do recommend payment of that as well.
So what, he's charging overtime at night?
There's a slight different rate, I understand, that he has with the Levee District for nighttime activities. It's not much, but it's just a little bit different rate that he's got with Nick and Drake on.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer to pay Compo and Sons invoice 1264, the amount of $139,857.50. Moved by Mac, second by Mitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, and the last invoice he has, number 1266, in the amount of $35,043.75. This is for the work you see on the slide here on the left side of the page. He's rebuilding the flood-side berm utilizing material that the Levee District had previously excavated and stockpiled. So he's hauling, shaping, and rebuilding that flood-side berm that was damaged for Hurricane Ida. And we recommend approval of that invoice as well.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the engineer. Pay Compo and Sons invoice 1266, the amount of $35,043.75.
And Mr. President, this particular invoice and this work is stuff that we're going to be submitting to FEMA for reimbursement because it was damage from Ida, from picking up debris along the toe of the levee.
Okay. Moved by Brian, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, the next project is La Rose Floodwall Vessel Impact Barrier. This is on the east side of La Rose from the overpass going out to the old Mercer boat launch. That contract is Lowland Construction Company. They're continuing work, but it should be done in the next week. As you can see, they have all the timber clusters installed now. I think they only have a couple of them left to wrap with cables. They have some signage and lighting to put up as per Coast Guard permitting. And we're going to have a deduct change order next month. There's 2 of the clusters that they weren't able to install due to a pipeline in the area of the overpass. So we reconfigured some of the clusters and spaced them out a little different in that area to still get protection, but there's going to be credit in the form of a change order coming next month. So today we have their application for payment number 6 in the amount of $416,284.63.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer for pay application number 6, amount of $416,284.63. Moved by Mac, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nate.
Motion passed.
Yes, sir.
What are we putting on those, are we putting lights or
There's
reflectors?
there's a reflective tape that was wrapped on each individual pile so that it stays in place. And I think that shows up real well on radar and lighting as well. And then there's some lighting and signage on each end of the configuration that the Coast Guard wanted us to put.
Question for the lawyer. Are we liable for anything if a boat hits this at night and, just a regular, not a work boat, I'm talking the weekend warranties? I know in the past, barges that wasn't lit and stuff, they hit and...
I mean, it would, in all cases where you have, car, boat, whatever, it's gonna come down to, you know, the circumstances that lead up to it. If it's properly designated and they're not paying attention and they hit it, you know, you have a responsibility to see what's in front of you.
So we liable no matter what.
I mean, at the end of the day, you could, you know, sue somebody for walking too close to you on the street, so we always open to be sued, but, you know, it would be, my personal opinion, and I think Ray would agree, would be that our levy district would have great success in defending any sort of suit for somebody running into the cluster for any reason. I mean, you know, if you, even during the day, obviously, you look at them, they're clear to see, but if they properly marketed and everything, and, you know, someone hits them at night because they're not running lights, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then, you know, they might sue, but I think for the purposes of negligence, they have a lot of contributory in their favor, saying that they were not doing what they needed to do to properly vessel, vessel, whatever.
Pay our deductible and defend us, is what you said.
What about,
Okay.
what about how are we gonna monitor stopping vessels from just mooring on those islands?
So that there is signage on each end of the project that has no mooring type. I think beyond that, you'd probably have to get with
The
Sheriff's
sheriff's
Office, Water Patrol one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, on the next project is the Section F berm improvements. Again, this is on the east side of LaRose, in the Delta Farm area, all the way south to Cloverly. That contract, the Sea Level Construction, is continuing work on the project to improve the protected side berm. You can see a real good picture here of their progress. We're recommending approval of their application for payment number 8 in the amount of $351,085.33.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer, pay sea level application number 8, amount of $351,085.33. Moved by Mitch, second by Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
So lastly, on this project, we have a significant change order that I've discussed with Nick. We're recommending. It's change order number 2. It would be for an increase of $606,000 for additional material to complete the project. So the way the project is designed and bid, we have a certain template that the contractor is expected to accomplish. There's a 6-inch overbuild across the whole project that we allow him by contract to do, but that's not in the bid quantity. Some contractors are able to take advantage of that, some of them aren't. We, in general, would like to see him do that because while somebody's out here trucking, we always know we need more material in the future. In this case, the contractor did actually overbuild the project by 6 inches, which he's allowed to do by contract. So in order to finish the project, we would need to add this additional material to account for that. So this would give us an extra 6 inches of material on the project. We'll kind of get what we paid for, but it'll give us some extra material for future levee improvements. The alternative would be to stop the project at this point, which he's got about half a mile, a little bit better than half a mile left to go before he gets to pump station number 7. And then we just deal with that area in the future if we want to. So Nick and I have discussed it. We think it's a positive thing. It'll give us some additional material. We know we've got some additional things we want to do to this levee in the near future. So we recommend approving it, but I'll let Nick speak on that for a minute too.
No, I mean, I agree with Neil that it's, while we're here, this is the best price we're going to get instead of having to get somebody out there again in the future. And there are some things that I'd like to do. One thing that we always get hammered on when the Corps comes to do their inspections of our levee is the requirements of ultimately being in the rehab and inspection program would be complying with their requirements of having 15 feet of clear land from the toe of the levee before you get to open water, which you can see when you get to the toe of the levee, we have trees, vegetation, and then we get into open water. You know, some of this material eventually I'd like to use to move to the flood side to give us that buffer. And then again, remember the berm here, the protected side berm was down to about -5. So this project is bringing our berm up to sea level. So it's something that was definitely needed in this area. So I would definitely recommend while we're here, adding on to it.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation of our engineer and our general manager to approve this extra dirt. Moved by Mac, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, that's all I have.
I hope
Oh, I'm
so.
glad.
Next month.
Okay, moving on to Delta Coast. Delta Coast.
Beanie weenies.
All South. Stevie, you have anything for us?
Three things to report on, members of the board. The first one is the Golden Meadow Terraces project. So this is a project to do some marsh restoration and other activities. This area somewhat overlaps the area that the folks from Ducks Unlimited were talking about a second ago, right? I mean, it's something. Then this board applied for what we call a BRIC grant, Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities, thank you, Nick, which is a significant amount of dollars at the federal level available for that. We made that application in February. We haven't heard anything back on the app yet, so we're still waiting. I mean, we'll get some requests for information eventually as that thing moves through, but I wasn't expecting to hear something back for a couple of months anyway. And again, it's about a $4 million project. If they award it, you guys are gonna have to come up with 25% of that, but we haven't got an award yet, so you don't have to worry about that money yet. The next project is the terraces at Reach K. Again, terraces were damaged by Hurricane Barry. They were built by this board as mitigation for Reach K. You have a partnership with the Terrebonne Levee District to repair the terraces, and then FEMA is going to reimburse you for the cost for those repairs. That work is ongoing. They probably got about 25% of the damaged terraces repaired as of today. Again, the Terrebonne Levee District is doing that with their personnel and their equipment. It's a very low cost way to do this. And when they finish the work, they're going to send you a bill. You'll have to pay it, and then we'll get you reimbursed by FEMA. So it's moving right along, and frankly at a very good pace, but a relatively slow pace compared to some other things that you do. Okay. The next is Hurricane Ida response on my agenda. So good news and bad news, right, Mary and Nick, is this board incurred $2-point-something million in expenses clearing out Grand Bayou north of the Reggie Bagala floodgate all the way up to the boat dock, Temple's boat dock up there, right? And actually clean out the boat dock, which we cleaned all that out because we were building the floodgate at the time. You incurred about $2 million in expenses. We finally got FEMA to agree to repay you for that, and they actually sent you the money. So that's the great news. Bad news is the CPRA had fronted you the money, so we got to send the money back to CPRA.
Good and bad.
Right?
In and out.
So give us our money back. Okay. But I will follow it up by saying, as I had a conversation with the CPRA chairman, I had a conversation with the CPRA executive director, and said, first off, we tried to tell them not to allow us to send the money back, right, Nick? Said, please don't make us send the money back, let us keep it and rededicate it to somewhere else, and they can't do that. I mean, it's not legal, so they couldn't do that. But what they did say is they would leave it basically in a Morganza account for us to use going forward, basically. So it's a good thing. It does have to go back to the state, but it's still going to be dedicated to providing flood protection here. So we'll have to work with them to see how we're going to expend it. Roughly $2 million, right? The rest of the Hurricane Ida information is we continue to work with FEMA and the Corps to allow you to submit reimbursement requests for your other projects. Again, because you're out of the RIP program, we've been kind of going back and forth with FEMA for a year now about whether that affects your reimbursement, your ability to get reimbursements from some of the other permanent repairs. And frankly, we've tried to bring in the congressional delegation to help us with that. And we don't have it resolved as of today. Okay. It's a very convoluted discussion. You've heard me explain it a couple times before, but suffice to say it's not resolved yet. Okay. And then I think the last thing is Reach K. I saw you had a slide on Reach K, Nick.
That was the construction updates from us.
Right. And Reach K, we continue working on Reach K. Again, that's a partnership with this board, Terrebonne Levee, North Lafourche, Terrebonne Parish Government, and Lafourche Parish Government, being managed by the Terrebonne Levee District. We've got the lower 2 miles of Reach K up to about a plus 11. That gets us all the way up to the first water control structure. And we are almost finished with that. And when we finish with that, we're gonna move to the middle section, which is roughly another 2 miles of reach cave between the two water control structures. We have funding in place to do that. We're just gonna finish the bottom portion first before we move on. Right? And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Stevie? Thank you, Steve. Okay, moving on, legal permits right away, Mitch,
We
anything?
got 3 this month. The first one is Greater Lafourche Court Commission and Lafourche Parish Government. And the third one is Jacob Barkley. After reviewing these permits, looking the board to approve these permits.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our chairman of the permits committee. Need a motion by Brian, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right, Mr. Attorney, any?
No update right now on any of our pending litigation, but I did sit down with Nick, and I'm hopeful to get to John and Joe everything they need for necessary writing.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Finance committee wasn't able to meet. We're gonna meet, Monday, next Monday. Insurance committee. No input. Maintenance and equipment committee, did we do anything on that, Nick?
We did not meet. We have quotes in for, on state contract for a long reach excavator. It'd be a Volvo 250 for $279,815 on state contract. We also have a quote for a John Deere 6135 tractor. And that state contract price would be $95,205.46. Both these pieces of equipment would need to be purchased. We could auction off the other two. Looking at similar auctions in recent times, the excavator we could probably expect to get about 60 or 70,000 for. It's a 2015 model. We have about 8,000 hours, which is about double of what you get on hours for your warranty. And if we would keep the excavator around, we have about $18,000 of repairs that we would need to do if we want to keep it. So, or we could just try to get, it's in really good shape for an excavator with that amount of hours. And so I think we could do pretty well on an auction with it. The tractor, I don't know, Drake could speak to more details about the issues that we've been having with the tractors, but we've had to do multiple repairs, and it would be time to replace that piece of equipment also. So this is up to the board if you'd like to approve the equipment committee, deciding which of those pieces to purchase or.
We could do it.
You have a price on bulldozers?
We do. The dozer isn't as much of an emergency need. We can discuss that with the equipment committee and maybe bring it up. And we're looking more timely for the excavator. One would be available in October. The tractor would be about 8 or 9 weeks before we'd be able to get one in.
This is the grass cutter tractor you're using?
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, let's, you've heard a recommendation of general manager to purchase the tractor and the excavator. Moved by Max, second by Mitch, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. And, personnel committee, we're gonna meet next Monday and we'll get to the board with that. Okay? Any old business? Any old business? Oh.
Finance, can we back up to the finance and get approval to release the checks upon the recommendation of the finance committee Monday?
Yes, okay, Mary, you've heard Mary's recommendation, we need to approve her to release, we need to approve to release the checks, even though the finance committee hasn't met, so.
And just so everyone's aware, this is mainly because of vacations of board members, passing of Mr. Ronald.
Yeah.
We weren't able to schedule a meeting of the finance committee prior to this meeting.
So keep upon recommendation of the finance committee.
Upon recommendation of the finance committee. Okay. Moved by Max, second by Mitch, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, Personnel Committee, any old business, any old business? Any new business? You needed some?
I'm new business.
Huh?
I'm new business.
Go ahead.
I'd like to be new business.
All right. We talked a bit about, Representative Joe Lafourche, District 54. Coming out of the legislative session, we've already talked about capital outlay. I wanted to just come up and say there was a very distinct vibe this particular legislative session, having last year had a large surplus and being asked to make it rain and give out a lot of money. This particular session, the reality of the temporary sales tax falling off next year and the shortfall that we're going to have came to realization. There was a lot more restraint in projects, both in capital outlay and surplus. Towards the end of the legislative session, they did find some surplus. I believe Nick had said that the majority of it is going to DOTD. It's actually DOTD, the water sector for certain projects on potable water in the state, and also because we had a session on crime, primarily crime in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport. There's a lot of parishes that, let's just say, aren't as well set up in the corrections industry as Lafourche Parish is. So a lot of those parishes are asking for money. So that's where a lot of the supplemental went additionally. We did have a couple of bills, one that ex-manager Wendell Curall had asked me to get with LSU to pass. That's to basically refine and better GPS surveying equipment and geodetic accuracy, is primarily in the Z dimension. That did pass. That particular bill was signed by the governor. Additionally, I don't think it's going to matter too much to y'all, but Senator Mike Fessy passed a bill to try to reduce the tolls on the elevated highway for anybody transporting a commercial, not a non-commercial, a pleasure craft. So if you got a boat and a trailer, a lot of people were complaining that under the new 3-tier system that they were being charged $10 for just their, well, even if it's a short Ford F-150 with a little trailer with a Snapper lawnmower on, you were getting it $10. Well, I can't help you with the Snapper lawnmower, but Big Mike did put something in to try to reduce the amount for people going down there with pleasure vessels and fishing vessels. Last year we had passed a bill to try to get the 10% match for a lot of political subdivisions. There are still some political subdivisions in Lafourche Parish and the 3 other parishes that haven't settled with FEMA. No surprise there. We got that extended for another fiscal year till June 30th, 2025. At least in my area, a lot of the fire departments, I don't know if y'all had a certain amount of money for that IDA claim match out of that account, but for me it's primarily like the Grand Isle Fire Department's the one that I keep getting notices for, to try to push them along to sign the next paper and move the budget along. But we did get that extended. I passed a bill that I've been trying to get passed for 3 years now, HB 300 and 305, which will, any offshore renewable energy revenue that the state gets will be married with oil and gas revenue in the future. It's likely to be on the November 5th ballot as a constitutional amendment. And keep in mind, please vote for it, because ultimately it makes more money that would be coming from, whether it be oil and gas, offshore wind, solar, wind, tidal, wave, whatever it is, any money that's generated and given to the state from energy produced offshore goes to preserving the coast through the CPRA Coastal Protection Fund. With that, tomorrow Nick and I and about 70 other people are going to DC for Shores Fly-In. That's sharing offshore revenue of all energy sources. which is a big push. And what we're trying to do there is basically go and meet with legislators from across the nation to basically convince them that whenever legislation comes forward to, like the RISE Act and the BREEZE Act, to possibly completely lift the GOMESA cap and change the amount that the states, the coastal states get from 37.5% to 50%, that we get buy-in from the other votes that we need elsewhere in the United States so that they realize how important it is. And me passing the bill that puts it on the agenda basically just double downs and shows that Louisiana is committed to our coastal restoration with the money that we get from offshore revenue. So that's important. Bridge updates, we all want to know about the Golden Meadow Bridge and the other bridges. Golden Meadow Bridge, basically they did all the structural repairs on all the beams for the deck work. I spoke with the owner of Reliant Construction. They also took the controls center out of the house, got it refurbed, put it back in, hooking up the wires. They're in the process of recommissioning that. As they finished up the beam repair work, as dictated by DOTD, the construction workers found other beams that were suspicious, so they're getting those checked with DOTD as well, which may cause a small delay. Last word he told me was by the end of July that the bridge would be working. I was pushing him for, I want to know when's the first time y'all gonna move the bridge. I'm not talking about letting vehicle traffic pass, because I know that once they try, after it's been laid up that long, the first time that they try to move it, it's gonna probably rise a whole other laundry list of things that'll need to be done. So I'm trying to push to try to get that done, or get DOTD to do that as quickly as possible. Beyond that, the other bridge, the La Rose Link Bridge in La Rose, of course, was scheduled to be done in between January and February. There was a supply chain issue, supposedly. It got pushed all the way to May, which they said it would take 30 days to get done, so it would be ready before the start of hurricane season. And in the end, once they got the motors down, the primary movers down, and got them in the shop, they found another part that was not expected to have to be replaced, and they're waiting on that. So there's probably another 20 to 25 day delay. So hopefully by the end of June, the La Rose Link will once again be active. God willing, it'll be before we have to have any kind of hurricane evacuation, because that's the real course of that. Other than that, you know, looking forward to, I'm already getting emails about coming to the Capitol to talk about the fiscal session of 2025 and how to change things around, and the always pressing how to make Louisiana more attractive to people that want to move in it, so we stop losing population. You know that people are leaving New York and California left and right, and they're moving to states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee, primarily because of no income tax. They're also moving to Mississippi and Alabama. Louisiana is the only state that had a net loss of population. And before the next census, we desperately need to reverse that so that we don't lose any more representation in Washington, D.C. And with that, that's pretty much still the ongoing goal in the legislature, is to try to make I'm going to say the economic and the tax environment more play-friendly. I didn't say anything about insurance, but we did the best we could. Probably got about 2/3 of good legislation passed to make insurance better, following the storms and an outflux of insurance companies that left. There were a bunch of insurance companies that came to the fence of the playground known as Louisiana and said, now that some people left, we might want to get into this business, especially since everything that could be broken has already been broken. Now we want to come in and charge premiums. But still, the looking over the fence at the playground, it's still too much of a big bullied, litigious environment that they didn't like. The 3-year rule was a non-starter for a lot of incoming prospective insurance agents, but we got that one fixed. trying to get more tort reform, so that if you sue and you lose, loser pays both sides. That didn't pass. That was one of the things that we tried. But there were a lot of other good, let's say, increased insurance competition in Louisiana bills that did get passed. So that's pretty much a roundabout thing for our industry and our area. And happy to take any questions if anybody's got any questions.
The only thing I have, Joe, and I spoke to you about it, the governor's talked about consolidating the boards, and if you could stay on top of that.
Yep, actually that was both the ports and the levee districts. You hear legislators from other parts of the state talking about how they're not getting along together. And whenever I'm bringing in, they talking about our levee districts, I'm saying, look. I said, I represent the Bayou region, and we got 3 levee districts, and we work well together. So whatever y'all trying to do to try to have an overarching how to get all the levee boards on the same page and all of that, we're already doing our job quite well. You could leave us alone. And with the ports, I actually looked for an amendment, knowing that the Greater Lafourche Port Commission is the only elected board. I pretty much tried to put in an amendment that would say, y'all can apply it to whatever ports y'all want as long as it's not an elected board, and that would leave Port Fourchon out of it. So on those particular things, and definitely with the levee districts, there is looked for consolidation, but as long as we work as well as we do together in our areas, we're gonna keep fighting for that. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate your efforts, and we appreciate you coming and explaining all that to us.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
I know some of it's outside the realm of just keeping us dry in here, but happy to help.
Any executive? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Rowland, second by Brian. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. It's a wrap.